Roses are red, violets are blue. The media machine is already force-feeding out the poop, so let's beat them at their own game again and dispel some myths because, I don't know, the fans actually want some truth. Oh, and we'll talk about the coaching search, too.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We're available on every single podcasting platform, visually as well on YouTube. Find me on Twitter at AllDayOState. Today, partially brought to you by eBay Motors. Make sure that you get yourself in the game with the right fit at the right time. eBay Motors is the place that you need to be to ensure that you're always going to have the right part fit guaranteed. Make sure you go there now to keep yourself in the game. Terms and conditions obviously do apply. So the propagation of bull honky has started. I mean, we kind of knew it was going to happen, so it's not like a big surprise. But the dumbest one I've seen thus far is from the Monty Show. By the way, guys, if you want some clarification on stuff, feel free to holler at me. But they put out this stuff that there is going to be a bunch of people leaving Oklahoma State because their parents aren't happy that they're not getting enough money. That is complete bullcrap. Matter of fact, a good portion of the parents that might not be happy, they're paying for summer personal private lessons, most of them. They don't need all this fancy NIL crap. That's not what it's about for them. It's not about getting extra money. That is just the dumbest thing that I'm seeing pushed out right now. So we got to dispel that crap. Another one that you're seeing from our main man, old Robert Allen. Dude, just shut it, man. Everybody knows that you're nothing more than a ventriloquist for Gundy, a.k.a. he's got his hands so far up, he's running your mouth, and we all know it. The latest from him is everybody at practice is super excited. They're pumped up. They're engaged. They're ready to battle, and they love the competition. And he had some expert come on and say that he does film analysis for the offense and the defense. And from the film analysis, you can clearly see that there's so many things that we can get so much better at. And the season's not lost, and the players are so engaged and ready to prove the world wrong. That's crap. Stop lying to everybody, bro. This is exactly why you're out with Gundy, right? You're attached to the hip with your little puppet string. You're gone. And it's because of this. You have absolutely wasted the access that you get. You get the best access of all time at Oklahoma State, and you waste it. You waste it just to be a ventriloquist puppet master for Gundy. And we're tired of it. Another thing's come out. Guys, I like Marshall Scott. I think Marshall Scott asked a very logical, reasonable question last year to Mike Gundy at the end of the season when he asked, are you going to have any staff turnover? Because, I don't know, it was logical. You can't have one of the worst offenses ever and not fire or address anything or anybody, but instead he did what he does, and he did what SID does, and they're going to revoke some of his access and ability, which is dumb because he was the only person asking a real question at all. But he put out this thing about the transfers, and from what I gathered, the propagation basically is if you transfer, it's not a greener pasture. Here's what I will say. I don't advocate anybody transferring. I want Oklahoma State to be, somewhat selfish in maintaining everything. But I also know the pulse, and I know the players are done playing for Gundy. Point blank, period. It ain't going to happen. So talking about people transferring in a negative light, I think is not only disingenuous, but it's not exactly fair. And it's not really a good look because some of these players, when they're done and they graduate, they are going to talk about some of the stuff that happened. It is what it is. And they're doing nothing but making it worse by pretending that everyone who left got worse, right? He talked about Spencer Sanders and being the backup for Jackson Dart. His numbers do look pretty good, even though it's in a very, very small, limited role. But he didn't talk about the fact that he dominated Jackson Dart in the spring game, and then he got hurt, and he was out for a while. Didn't bring that up, did he? Dominic Richardson. The dude couldn't find a patch of grass at Oklahoma State. Yes, our offensive line wasn't very good, but I didn't think that he would be the lead guy at Baylor. I thought Reese was unquestioned their dude, but he's actually been their leading carrier. And the productivity's better than at Oklahoma State. But he didn't bring up the fact that, I mean, he did talk about numerically how he's below all three of our running backs in PFF grades. He didn't talk about the fact that the last game that I watched, he had like 70 some odd yards in the first half, and then something happened. He got hurt, and he laid face down on the field for a few minutes, which obviously not a good look. I don't recall if he ever went back in the game. I don't think that he did. But is he talking about that injury? No. JPR, he's dominating at TCU. That's great for him. We knew he would. We did give him some love here, but he did talk about how Jaden Braden and John Stribling are just barely behind Richardson, even though the body of work is not the same. Bryson Green, he pointed out that he's fourth on the team at Wisconsin in receptions. And I don't know exactly what's going on with Bryson Green there, so he might be spot on. Same thing with Boogie, Stephon Johnson Jr. Talked about how he's like, sixth in receptions or snaps, and the grade isn't all that great. He also didn't bring up the fact that Boogie missed a few weeks with an ankle injury, game 2, and he's just now kind of getting back into the rhythm. So didn't bring that up. Braylon Presley, don't know a lot about what he's got going on at Tulsa, so I can't pretend one way or the other. It doesn't look like it was beneficial for him. Mason Cobb, he dealt with some injuries. He did bring that up, ironically enough, but he talked about the limited number of snaps and this and that and the other. Jabbar Muhammad is actually killing it at Washington, so there's nothing to say there. Thomas Harper's not doing bad at Notre Dame. Trace Ford's unfortunately doing very good at OU. So it needs to be expressed that more often than not, the honest thing to say is if you transfer, you're probably not going to go to greener pastures. That's fair. That's realistic. That's honest. But let's not pretend that everybody who left is in a worse spot. Let's not pretend that most of these guys didn't want to leave and they would still be Cowboys if Gundy would have been able to answer his daggone flipping fracking phone. Same with Jim Knowles. This is a reoccurring theme. So, yeah, I just miss us with the bull crap. Please, from here on, just miss us with the bull honky. We don't need it. We know it's not true. So stop with it. All right. We talked the other day about how Chad Weiberg keeps having bags of crap dumped on his doorstep and lit on fire with all the crap he's got to deal with Gundy. And he doesn't have to deal with the bags of crap anymore. You don't either. If you want a bag delivered to your door, you should probably try DoorDash. Guys, we already trust DoorDash to deliver all of our restaurant food, right? So make life simple. It doesn't matter if you're missing pancake syrup, bottles of hot sauce, avocados, you're out of toast. It doesn't matter. They're going to be able to get you what you want when you need it to your doorstep. You guys, with thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you're going to find the best thing in your neighborhood, and you're going to be able to boost your local economy with every order while doing so. You're going to get exactly what you ordered, or they're going to make it right. So just chill out, sit back, pick what you want, let it come to your door. If you want more value, you can save on all your grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership, with easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer support. DoorDash delivers groceries exactly the way you want it. So get 50% off your DoorDash order up to $20 value when you use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at your checkout. This is a limited time offer. Terms do apply. That is 50% off up to $20, no minimum subtotal, at $0 delivery fees for your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Again, don't forget that promo code, LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. So let's move into the fix and the coaching search. The fix is you gotta do the thing. You gotta get rid of Gundy. You gotta get rid of most of everybody. Now, I will say the players, a good chunk of the players, are still very, very happy with Brian Nardo, J.W. Walsh, Benny Tonga, John Wozniak, Trayson Wallace. Haven't heard much about Dan Hammersmith. Haven't heard much about Duffy. I will say they might be part of the cog in the machine that's a problem, a.k.a. being yes men for Gundy. So that's maybe why they're not being talked about a whole lot. I'm not saying they're out, but these are the coaches that I've heard from several people that they're all happy to be around, play with, learn from, and continue to have trust and faith in. So let's get into the top 5, technically the top 6 of the coaches that seem to be not only popular, but very viable options for Oklahoma State. I'm doing a 6 instead of just a top 5 because the 6th one maybe a little shot in the dark here. And the sixth one is Mike Elko. Last time we dipped into Duke with Jim Knowles, we did very well. And guys, I'm not completely out on Jim Knowles potentially being a guy as well. But the reason that I put Mike Elko 6 is because he's an East Coast guy, graduated from Penn, spent most of his life on the East Coast. His wife's from New Jersey. From what I'm gathering, he doesn't have a lot of a desire to leave the East Coast, but he has coached at places like Wake Forest. He did coach at Bowling Green. The success that he had at both places were unprecedented. The Falcons of Bowling Green, they held their opposition under 100 yards rushing for 9 contests, and they would end the season ranked 11th in the country in sacks, 12th in the country in total defense, 13th in the country in pass defense efficiency, and 5th in America in first downs allowed at only 5.1. That's pretty crazy. And then at Wake Forest, who before Sam Hartman was pretty much nothing, he still had the ability to get that defense ranked 38th in America. They were 12th nationally in passing yards allowed and top 40 in total defense in the United States. Also finished with 5 defensive players earning all ACC honors under his tutelage. Then he goes to Duke. When he went to Duke, they were 0-8 in conference play. And then he immediately takes them to not only a successful record, but they go to a bowl game. And right now, he's one of the hot commodities in all of coaching. So I love what Mike Elko has done, right? To come in and take a team that went 0-8 to 9-4. Very impressive. But I hear he doesn't really want to leave the coast area. So we'll move on to who I think should be number 5 on the list, and that is Sean Lewis. Unfortunately, not our Oklahoma State Sean Lewis, but the Sean Lewis that is currently the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at the University of Colorado. And this was a big deal for Dion, prime time, to steal Sean Lewis, who at the time was the second youngest coach in Division I history when he was at Kent State. And originally, he took over for a Kent State program that was pretty terrible. And they started not so great. They had a rough time. Then they hit COVID. He personally got COVID, missed quite a bit of time. But when he come back, they improved from 22-21 to 22-9. They saw insane improvements. Immediately, they went up almost 12 points a game, 109 yards a game. And then he orchestrated one of the biggest turnarounds. They end up going to a bowl game. And it was only the fourth bowl game in school history. And it was the first bowl victory in school history. Then he set records in 2021 for plays with 1,052, yards 6,907, first downs 362, rushing yards 3,482, passing yards 3,425. Look at that balance there. They ranked 4th in the country at 495 yards a game. He was the co-offensive coordinator under Dino Babers at Syracuse as well, Eastern Illinois. Before that, Bowling Green, obviously, before that as well. And at Bowling Green, they were 4th in the country at 546 yards a game, 43 points a game. And he's been a quarterback coach. He's helped Matt Johnson gain the MAC Offensive Player of the Year. Production is crazy, and he's exuberant. He's youthful. He's getting paid, I think around. I think it said 1.2 mil, something to that effect. So he'd take more to be head coach at Oklahoma State University? Abso-flippin-lutely. Now let's move on to who I think should be next on the list. So number 4's got to be Willie Fritz, guys. Right? It has to be Willie Fritz. What he's done at Tulane is nuts by itself, just 100% by itself. But whenever you take into consideration that he's been crazy successful everywhere he won 2 national titles at Blinn. When he took over at Blinn Junior College, and Oklahoma State's had plenty of success recruiting Blinn guys. When he took over, they were 5-24. Then he turns it around and they go 39-5 with 2 junior college national titles. He goes on to Central Missouri, and for the first time in 32 years, they go to a bowl game. They win a bowl game. He becomes the winningest coach in their school's history before he moves on to Sam Houston State. Has a lot of success at Sam Houston State. Has their only undefeated season in Bearcat history. They won back-to-back national title appearances in 2011, 2012, and he was only there for 3 years. And they ended up going 16-6. Okay. Then he moves on up, gets Southland Conference Coach of the Year, and they win the Southland Championship. Then he goes to Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, we know that. They took J.D. King from us. He had some success there. His first season, they go 9-3. And then they go undefeated in conference play, win the conference. He becomes Conference Coach of the Year once again. And then he goes to Tulane. And at Tulane, he deals with a bunch of adversity, right, with the Hurricane Ida coming in and having to bounce around, who they're going to play, how they're going to play, is he going to stay around? Nobody transferred. He kept all of his players. He kept all of his quarterback. Everybody in the country was looking at his quarterback, and a lot of people were saying he was going to leave. And he made jokes about how he knew that teams were illegally talking to his star quarterback, but he was pretty comfortable who's going to stay. Now he's 63, making 2.1 mil with an escalation scale that could get him up to like 3 mil by next year. We can beat that. We can do that. 63 is a little bit of a concern, but I want to read this little excerpt here that'll prove that his age is a little bit different than Gundy's age. During a 2-hour November practice, Willie Fritz carried around a microphone all throughout practice, occasionally barking out orders or giving quick words of encouragement. He seemed to be everywhere all at once. He bounced from station to station and even wandered off to the end zone to get specific points of view. Over 81 times, he was caught taking notes and whispering into a digital recorder. This is a habit that he picked up from former Kansas State legendary coach Bill Snyder. Even now, in the middle of his 30th season and 7th at Tulane, he sees improvement everywhere he looks. He goes to receiver drills. He watches every single position group, and he's involved in every single position group. And when he sees something that he took a note on, he hands it to the coaches in real time. The coaches on the field find a way to fix it, and they fix it. Discipline, accountability, which we don't have from our head man or Casey Dunn, is something he prides himself on. He sees players walking, that will drive him nuts and make him flip out, because that's extra steps of wasted energy that is unnecessary. And then he spends hours with the coaching staff afterwards, beforehand. Everywhere he has been, he has rebuilt from terrible, made them championship contenders at every single level. And he's still involved every single practice, boots on the ground, every single position group. That's the exact opposite of what we have now. That's why I think he's got to be next on this list. All right, now we get to move into the top 3. Number 3 here's got to be pretty common sense, and that's going to be Jeff Traylor. I think one of the biggest things that Jeff Traylor brings to the table, kind of reminiscent to what Joe McGuire has going on at Texas Tech, and that is the coaching ties, especially in the state of Texas. Guys, his dad was an absolute coaching legend in the high school ranks. His dad also played for Baylor, kind of a big deal. His dad coached for Baylor. He coached for Baylor. He has a lot of love, a lot of ties to the state of Texas. He was 3-time 4A Texas High School Coach of the Year, 4-time Texas High School Coach of the Year. They won 3 state titles under his tutelage as well at Gilmore High School. He has a ridiculous reach. He got to coach at Texas. Pretty big deal. He was supposedly what the fans wanted after Tom Herman. If they couldn't get Urban Meyer, most of the Texas fans wanted Jeff Traylor because he worked as tight ends and special teams coordinator under Charlie Strong. He also then spread his wings a little bit, went to be the wide receivers coach. And here's the most important part. In back-to-back years, he won Big 12 Recruiter of the Year. Then he's the running backs coach at SMU. We love you, Wozniak. We're going to keep you. Probably don't need him to mess with running backs, but he can. After a 2-year stint at Arkansas, then he became the head coach at UTSA. Immediately, they go 7-5. And that's the best record they've had since 2013. And Texas fans were not happy when they didn't hire Jeff Traylor. They instead went with Steve Sarkisian, but I think most people realize Steve Sarkisian has a lot of clout, can get a lot of recruits just because of his name. So if the football IQ acumen side of it worked out, it was going to be a pretty good hire. They seem to be okay, happy now. He is young. He's exuberant. He's ready to rock and roll. His reach in the state of Texas between him and his dad is absolutely insane. That's what we need. Our relationships with the coaches in the state of Texas because of Gundy is not very good. We're not going to be able to rebuild it with him there. Okay? So this is the route that we need to go. And I think he's a good suit. But the problem is he's got like a 10-year contract. Good news is he's only making like $700,000-800,000 a year. So when we sit Gundy down and we have him, or at least hopefully he does the right thing, whatever it's going to cost to get one of these coaches, including their current buyout, needs to be taken out of that $25 million bullcrap chunk. Okay, so let's move on here. Number 2 on my list is Josh Henson, the former Cowboy that we all know and love. A lot of Cowboy former players and players that were there at the time were not very happy when Josh Henson did not get promoted to offensive coordinator and he left Oklahoma State for Texas A&M. People were pretty pissed. Players were not happy because a lot of players knew that Casey Dunn was not going to be the ticket. Neither was Sean Gleason, right? And speaking of Sean Gleason, people want to give him our time. What made him famous at Princeton was he ran a 3-quarterback system, 3 quarterbacks that could run and throw. When he came here, we had some athletic capabilities, right? We had a young freshman, Spencer Sanders. We also had the Hawaii transfer that was known, Drew Brown, that could run all over the place. So I thought we were going to get that style of offense. We didn't. Gundy put him in a box, did the bull crap. It is what it is. But that should have been Josh Henson's job. And then we should have called Josh Henson again instead of giving it to Casey Dunn. So a lot of former players have Josh's back. And he's not a Gundy yes man. That's partially why he left. He's not going to play the bull honky games. He wants to get stuff done. He's an Okie. He's a Cowboy. He's from Tuttle. He coached at Kingfisher, Oklahoma State, LSU. Obviously, he was the OC and O-line coach at Mizzou. Recruited pretty daggone well there as well, which is why Barry Odom retained him. Then he comes to Oklahoma State, offensive line coach. Recruiting, good. Fundamentals, good. Technique, good. He's gone because Gundy made a bad move. Goes to Texas A&M. Then he goes to USC. Their offense is absolutely insane. Yeah, they've got a lot of players for sure, but the O-line is squared away. They brought in some transfers. The transfers bought in pretty quickly, understood the system pretty quickly, and they're having instantaneous success. I didn't see what he's getting paid. He's a young cat like us, so the exuberance is there. He can bring back former Cowboys that want Oklahoma State to be bigger. They want the Oklahoma State media to be more national. They want the coverage to be better. He can bring those guys in. No, I didn't bring up Zac Robinson because I'm being told Zac Robinson is almost a surefire thing to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL next year, and he doesn't want to pass that opportunity up, so you can't blame him. And then we kind of tied Jim Knowles in with Elko, but number one, he's number one because a decent number of our commits, a decent number of our current commits, they love Brian Nardo, they love JW, they love some of the other coaches, they love Oklahoma State, not Gundy. They know what's going on. They're not going to stand for this. They're not going to be around for this. They're not going to be a part of this. Now, are they still committed? 100%. They still like the staff that they like, right? So nothing's going to change. But I can tell you the name that everybody's talking about is G.J. Kinney, the head coach of Texas State, the architect behind the nation's #1 offense last year. He was the second youngest coach at the FBS level, 34 years old. And he had this mantra of take Texas back. And much like Jeff Traylor, he has equally the same number, if not more, of high school coaches' connections. The dude comes in and his mantra is take Texas back. This is Texas State we're talking about, y'all, not the University of Texas. We're not even talking about Houston. We're talking about Texas State. And he does it. He brings in 51 transfers instantaneously. He was an offensive mastermind. He's got NFL experience. He's got crazy deep roots in the state of Texas. And before he was this, he was already up for the Walter Payton Award. He was also responsible for the crazy turnaround of Texas State. His dad played at Baylor. Okay. He's from the Mesquite area. His dad coached at Baylor. And Baylor's going to steal this dude before we do if we don't play our cards right. Guys, I'm telling you, the commits are going to be super stoked if this is the guy. Now, I don't think anybody has any reserves or reservations about Josh Henson as well, or Jeff Traylor, or Willie Fritz. But this is the hottest name I can find right now. from high school ranks. And he's young. You talk about sleeping in your office, being full of fire, drink a couple Red Bulls, stay up till 5 a.m., find ways to scheme your way into W's. He's already doing it. Guys, he was a grad assistant at SMU. He was an offensive analyst at Arkansas. He was offensive analyst and worked for special teams with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach at Hawaii, co-OC, and quarterback coach at UCF. Head coach at Incarnate Word, where he instantaneously takes them to a 12-2 record, Southland Conference champions, FCS playoff semifinal appearances. And then in Texas State, he's been absolutely killing it. Not only competing with Power 5 schools, but beating Power 5 schools. And the high school kids in Texas are fired up for this dude. This is a type of guy that players will follow anywhere, everywhere. He's got a 10-year contract again, but making $800,000 a year, this is something Gundy can take out. This is something Gundy can take out of his exit fee if he wants to do the right thing. He wants to continue to be the legend that he is. We'll see. We'll find out. I mean, we don't know what direction it's going to go, but that seems to be it. I think I mixed the Baylor coaching dad thing up, by the way. But anywho, the next thing that we got to talk about is a little bit of basketball dive in. But real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to let you know that Jase Medical has you covered for any emergency type of situations. You want to be able to take care of your loved ones. You want to be able to take care of yourself, but you want it to be reasonable, right? In today's world, economically, it's not super simplistic. So go with Jase Medical. Guys, you know my story. I've been asked a few times, I have diabetes. No, I don't have diabetes. I had an injury between the military and the oil field, had a bunch of blood clots. I thought that I had a pinched nerve, so I self-diagnosed and I self-treated for 2 years, getting massage therapy and going to chiropractors on a darn near daily basis. And then my leg turned purple. I knew that wasn't good, but I waited too long, right? I did let's wait till a limb's falling off before we go to the hospital crap. Don't do that. Don't be me. You can get ahead of all that with Jase Medical. It's simple. With storms, shortages, any of the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, the ridiculous reliance on the country that is China and their stupid supply chain issues, you need to be more prepared now than ever before. Go online, fill out the form for Jase Medical, and then you can get prescriptions, life-saving medications all right to your door. The Jase case gives you peace of mind, so you're not just hoping that you have access to the medications and things you need in emergencies. Jase Medical makes sure you have medications in hand. Right now, get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using my code LOCKEDON, one word, at checkout on jasemedical.com. That is JESE medical.com. Make sure that you use promo code LOCKEDON. Don't get yourself unprepared. Don't pull a Cody and wait till it's too late. Go to jasemedical.com, use that promo code, and keep you and your family in emergency situations already taken care of. All right, y'all. Real quick, before we skedaddle on out of here, last year Oklahoma State had a top 10 recruiting class. The recruits right now still pretty bought in. They are interested to see who we decide to replace Mike Gundy with, but they still have Brian Nardo, some of the assistants, so we're good there. Hoops check-in. Again, top 10 class. It's got to produce something. But we also just landed another 4-star All-American, Jeremiah Johnson, who formerly was Putnam City, Norman. Then he could have entered last season, right? He was a top 50, ranked number 16 in America at 6'2", 160. Dealt with an injury, went to Phoenix, Arizona Prep Academy, and now he's up to 175, listed at 6'3", phenomenal point guard, 4-star, and I'm hearing we're probably going to have him on the show. So be ready for that. Stay tuned for that. Other than that, I think that's all we're going to have for this one right here. I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.